Sometimes love appears in shadow before it ever dares to live in light, and sometimes the one who saves you is the one secretly hoping to be saved too.
The first time he came to me, it was not with fear or fire the way legends describe vampires. He stood quietly at the edge of my dream, beneath a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations, wearing the weight of centuries in his still posture. The moonlight did not harden his face. Instead, it softened him. He looked less like a ruler and more like a man who had waited too long for someone to see him. I remember how the wind moved across the long black banners behind him. They whispered like distant regrets. He did not approach. He only watched, as if moving closer might break something fragile inside him. When I spoke in the dream, my voice trembled, not with fear, but with the strange pull of recognition. It felt as though I had known him long before that moment, as though my heart already carried his silhouette. "Oh, you look lonely," I said. His eyes lifted slowly, bright yet tired, holding a sadness deeper than the night itself. He did not deny it. He never did. Instead, he spoke with a quiet restraint that revealed more pain than any dramatic confession. "Loneliness is easier," he said. "It hurts less than hope." I woke with his words still echoing in my chest. After that night, he returned again and again, always in dreams, never crossing fully into my reality. He appeared in different places each time, once on a marble balcony overlooking an endless dark ocean, another time in a silent forest where pale flowers glowed like hidden stars. Wherever he stood, the world seemed shaped by his presence, as if even the dream itself bowed to his quiet authority. Yet he never acted like a typical king, he never commanded anything. There were no servants, no armies, no cruelty or hunger for power. There was only this strange, gentle restraint. He spoke softly, never raising his voice, asking simple things about my day, my worries, the people I loved. And when I answered, he listened like every word mattered. Slowly, I realized the truth that unsettled me most. He was not just visiting my dreams, he was protecting them. Whenever a nightmare crept in, whenever fear twisted the edges of sleep, he stepped forward without violence or anger. He only placed himself between me and the darkness, as though standing guard against something he knew far too well. One night, I finally found the courage to ask the question that lived constantly in my chest. "Why me?" He paused longer than ever before. His gaze dropped to the ground, and I saw something vulnerable break through his calm composure. The untouchable leader cracked, revealing a lonely soul beneath centuries of duty. "Because you remind me of who I was," he admitted quietly, "before I became what everyone else needed." I wanted to touch him then, to reach across the invisible barrier separating our worlds. But before I could move, he stepped back as though afraid of what that contact might awaken. "Oh, you are too kind to exist in my world," he said, "and I am too damaged to deserve yours." The admission struck harder than any rejection. This powerful figure, the ruler of shadows and immortality, believed himself unworthy of human warmth. Yet my heart knew something he refused to accept. I felt love growing where it should not exist, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the slow, aching devotion that forms when two souls recognize shared longing. Night after night, our connection deepened. He shared stories of protecting strangers who never knew his name, of guiding lost travelers through dangerous lands while remaining unseen, of silently stopping tragedies no one ever credited him for. He never wanted praise. He only wanted to make the world gentler than the one he inherited. "Saving lives is easier than saving myself," he told me once. That was the moment I knew his true pain. He carried goodness like a burden, believing compassion was a duty rather than a gift. He had become a king not through ambition, but necessity. The darkness of his realm obeyed him because he refused to let it consume others. Yet the more I loved him, the more I sensed his fear. Not fear of enemies, not fear of death, fear of connection. Fear that loving me might finally undo the emotional armor he had built over centuries. One night, the boundary of the dream began to blur. The environment shifted unpredictably, shadows flickering as if reality itself was weakening. He noticed it instantly. His calm finally fractured. "Oh, something is changing," he whispered. For the first time, he reached toward me, fingertips trembling, stopping only inches away from my hand. The space between us pulsed with invisible tension, the promise of a touch that could alter both our worlds. "If I cross that line," he said, fear thick in his voice, "I may no longer be able to protect you from my world." I held my hand steady, refusing to pull away. "Maybe I don't need protection," I said softly. "Maybe I just need you." His eyes filled with a mixture of longing and terror. The dream began to dissolve around us. The colors faded, the moon fractured into trembling light. And just before our hands could meet, he pulled back suddenly, pain flashing across his face like an old wound reopened. "Not yet," he whispered. "I cannot lose you the way I lost everything else." Then he vanished. I woke with my fingers still extended, touching empty air. But one truth remained carved into my heart. He was not only the king of shadows. He was running from the one thing he wanted most. He couldn't sleep after he disappeared. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the echo of that almost touch burning in my palms. The room felt colder than usual, the way it does after a storm passes but leaves the air trembling. I stared at the ceiling and wondered if he had truly chosen distance or if something deeper had torn him away. When sleep finally claimed me, the dream did not return immediately. Instead, I drifted through darkness with no stars, no ground, no direction. An endless quiet pressed against my thoughts. Then I heard his voice. It did not come from in front of me, but from within the silence itself. "I'm still here." Light unfolded slowly like dawn through fog. I stood in a vast empty hall fashioned from black stone that reflected dull silver glimmers. Towering pillars faded into shadow above, holding a ceiling I could barely see. There were no banners this time, no wind, no ocean beyond a balcony, only stillness. And in the center of the hall, he waited. Oh, yet something had changed. The calm strength I always felt around him now carried strain. Shadows clung visibly to his shoulders like a heavy cloak. His posture was rigid, not the poised stillness of a king, but the tension of someone holding back collapse. I walked closer before fear could stop me. "Well, you left," I said. His jaw tightened. "I protected you." "From what?" He glanced toward the dark edges of the hall, as if unseen eyes watched from afar. "From my truth." His gaze returned to mine slowly. In his expression was a pain he had never allowed me to see fully before. "When I touch something I care for," he said softly, "I give it my immortality's weight, not eternal life, but eternal danger." My breath caught. "Oh, you think you're cursed," I whispered. "I am responsible," he corrected. "Anyone close to me becomes a target of what I rule." For the first time, he spoke of his world not as a place of quiet guardianship, but of constant vigilance. Rival houses, ancient powers that hunted anything precious to weaken him, enemies who did not seek destruction for cruelty but for dominance. "They don't fear my throne," he said. "They fear my heart." I stepped closer again. "You can't protect someone by abandoning them." His eyes widened slightly, as though the thought had never fully reached him before. "I've always protected from afar," he replied. "I didn't realize how alone that made me." The vulnerability in his voice pulled my heart painfully tight. This immortal king who commanded armies of night had mastered defense but never connection. Guarding others was easy. Letting someone guard him was terrifying. He turned away, pacing the hall restlessly. "I watched generations love and lose," he continued. "Each time I told myself I was better alone. Yet when you spoke to me, when you saw loneliness instead of legend, the walls failed." He stopped walking. For the first time in centuries, I wanted to be chosen, not revered, not obeyed, chosen. The words moved something fragile and brave inside me. I reached out again, slower this time, giving him full freedom to pull away, but he didn't. Our fingers brushed. A surge of warmth exploded through the air around us. The pillars glowed faintly. The shadows recoiled like startled animals. The dream space trembled as if reacting to our joined presence. Oh, his breath hitched. Do you feel that? He asked. Oh, yes. That's your humanity touching my eternity, he whispered. It destabilizes the boundary. He withdrew his hand reluctantly, fear flickering back into his eyes. Well, this contact is dangerous for both of us. But underneath the caution burned undeniable longing. Then why return at all? I asked. Oh, his gaze softened. Because even kings need hope. The hall began to fade into a completely different place. Suddenly, we stood above a sleeping city. Rooftops glittered under moonlight. Distant streets glowed in thin rivers of gold. Below us, unaware, people lived ordinary lives saved countless times by the unseen guardian beside me. This is why I led, he said quietly. Not for power, but so children sleep safely, so families wake together, so strangers cross streets without knowing what was stopped for them. I watched him observe the city with silent devotion. There was no pride in his expression, only responsibility. Well, you sacrifice yourself every night, I said. Someone must choose the burden, he replied. Then his voice softened. But now I'm questioning if I deserve to share joy as well. The words felt heavier than battle cries. Suddenly, his head turned sharply. Tension snapped through his body. They feel it, he said. Feel what? Our connection. A ripple erupted across the skyline. Distant towers dimmed unnaturally, swallowed by creeping shadow. His eyes burned with urgent light. Oh, you shouldn't have touched me, he whispered, not with anger but fear. He grabbed my shoulders gently but firmly. Listen to me. If they trace you through me, you will become a bridge between realms. They'll try to use you. My heart pounded. Then we face it together, I said. His grip loosened. You don't understand, he said. I have faced darkness for centuries alone, so no innocent stands beside me. Loving you changes the rules. The city beneath us continued darkening. Shapes moved within the gloom in patterns that felt intelligent. For the first time, I saw the king not as invincible, but as terrified of losing the one person who had touched his guarded soul. You came to my dreams to protect me, I said. Maybe I came into yours to protect you. His breath stilled. No one had ever told him that. Before he could respond, a violent tremor rocked the dreamscape. The skyline shattered into falling fragments of light. Shadows surged upward like waves reaching for the sky. His grip tightened as the world began collapsing around us. Hold on to me, he urged. The darkness lunged. The dream tore open. And as everything dissolved into blinding emptiness, he pulled me into his arms for the first time. But instead of safety, I felt the shock of something else crossing that boundary. Reality. I awoke gasping, my heart racing. And on my wrist, glowing faintly like moonlight, was a silver mark I had never seen before. The king's connection had followed me through the veil. And whatever hunted him now knew exactly where to find May. Spent the day trying to convince myself the mark was only imagination. It rested on the inside of my wrist, delicate and pale, shaped like an unfinished crescent. When sunlight touched it, the glow faded to a soft shimmer, faint but undeniable. No matter how many times I rubbed it, it didn't disappear. And worse than seeing it was feeling it. A subtle warmth pulsed beneath my skin, steady like a heartbeat that did not belong to me. When night fell, exhaustion pulled me into sleep faster than fear could stop it. The moment my eyes closed, the world shifted. I was standing on a high mountain ledge under swirling storm clouds. Sharp winds tore at my hair and clothes. Lightning flickered silently in the sky, illuminating massive stone towers rising from black cliffs below. His realm, the vampire king stood at the cliff's edge, staring into the storm like a man bracing for judgment. His posture no longer carried quiet calm. Tension framed every movement. When he saw me, relief crossed his face before worry replaced it. "Oh, you came," he said. "You left something behind," I replied, lifting my wrist. His expression paled. "The soul mark," he whispered. He crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, stopping inches away. He never touched me, but his presence alone felt like warmth against the cold wind. "I prayed it wouldn't form," he said. "It means our bond passed the dream boundary." "Oh, what does that mean for me?" His voice trembled for the first time since I knew him. "It means we are no longer distant souls," he said. "We are connected. What harms you weakens me. What breaks me will endanger you." I studied his face, searching for companionship beneath the fear. Then we faced things together. He shook his head slowly. "This mark places you between 2 worlds," he replied. "Something neither human nor immortal should become." Storm clouds churned violently overhead as he continued. "There are ancient watchers who patrol the borders between realms," he said. "They sense connections like ours as imbalance. If they reach you, they won't kill you." "Oh, then what?" "They'll bind you," he answered quietly. "Use your heart to breach my domain." The words chilled deeper than the wind. "So I'm bait," I whispered. "No," he corrected instantly. "You are precious, and because of that, dangerous to those who worship control." Light crackled through the sky behind him, and for a moment the powerful king looked impossibly human. Worry lined his eyes. He lifted his hand slowly, hesitating before finally resting it against the glowing mark on my wrist. Energy surged between us. The mountains below shimmered. Somewhere far below, warning horns echoed across valleys of shadow. His hand shook as he pulled away. "Oh, they've felt it," he said. His voice strengthened suddenly, shifting back into leadership mode. "You must return," he ordered gently. "Do not sleep again unguarded." "Oh, you're sending me away again," I said. A pain flickered in his gaze. "I'm sending you safely forward," he replied. "There is a difference." Around us, dark shapes moved between mountain ridges, tall silhouettes with luminous eyes climbing impossibly steep slopes with silent purpose. "Oh, watchers," he whispered. A panic surged through me. "What do we do?" "What I have done for centuries," he said. He stepped between me and the advancing figures, spreading his cloak of shadow wide. Power flowed from him, curling the air like living smoke. "You live," he told me. "I will delay them." "That means you'll fight alone." "Not to destroy," he answered calmly, "only to protect." That word again, protect. Anger rose inside me. "You don't have to bear everything alone," I said. His jaw tightened. "I always have." I grabbed his hand before fear could stop me. As our palms pressed together, the storm exploded outward, clouds rippling like water struck by stone. Golden light blasted from the soul mark, pushing waves of energy across the mountains. Every approaching watcher froze mid-step. Even the king stared at our joined hands in shock. "Oh, you didn't know you could do that," I said, breathless. "No," he whispered, "this has never happened before." The light did not come from him alone. It flowed through both of us. And suddenly he understood. Your compassion amplifies my strength, he said slowly. You don't endanger me, you empower me. Realization softened something guarded within his eyes. The watchers recoiled, their forms distorting under the radiant wave, retreating into mist across the ridges. The storm calmed. The silence returned. But victory did not bring relief. His transformation frightened him. They will return stronger, he said grimly, and now they know where your power comes from. Then we prepare, I replied. He looked at me intensely. What you did could change everything, but it also paints a target on you brighter than ever before. He cupped my face gently for the first time, the touch filled with reverence rather than fear. I never dreamed of being saved, he whispered, only of saving others. His thumb brushed away tears I hadn't realized were falling. Maybe this story was never meant to be about a king saving one human, I said softly. Maybe it's about two wounded souls learning to stand together. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he lined his forehead against mine. If I allow myself to believe that, he murmured, it may cost us everything. Below us, shadows regrouped within distant valleys, gathering denser than before. The calm was temporary. He finally met my eyes. The next time they come, they won't stop at watching. The dream began fading as dawn approached my waking world. What does that mean? I asked urgently. His voice followed me as the vision broke apart. It means they will try to take you from me. I woke with my wrist burning softly, knowing that the battle for our bond had truly begun days after the mountain vision passed in a strange haze. The soul mark no longer stayed faint. Its glow pulsed gently beneath my skin whenever I felt strong emotions, sadness, hope, or fear. It was as though my heart now spoke in light. I avoided sleep, afraid of drawing the watchers closer, but exhaustion always won. When the dream returned, it carried urgency. I stood inside an ancient chamber carved from obsidian rock. Floating crystals lit the air in soft violet hues. Long curved windows opened onto a stormless night sky filled with constellations that did not belong to Earth. The king knelt at the chamber's center, not in submission, but exhaustion. His shoulders sagged, shadows flickered around him like shallow breaths. The mighty protector no longer stood tall this time. The weight he had carried alone for centuries finally showed. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly when he saw me. They move closer every time we connect. I took slow steps toward him. And every time you pull away, I replied, you're not protecting me, you're protecting your pain. His gaze lifted sharply. My pain is safer than your life. Your loneliness is what's truly dangerous, I answered softly, for both of us. The truth landed between us like a held breath. He remained silent, eyes filled with conflict. I have ruled my emotions like kingdoms, he admitted after a moment. Sealed them behind walls stronger than stone, but you bypassed those walls without weapons. I knelt beside him. Because you never needed walls, I said, you needed rest. His expression wavered. Rest feels like surrender, he whispered. No, I replied, rest is trust. For several beats, we breathed together in the quiet chamber. Slowly, his shoulders relaxed as if the tension had been loosening for the first time in centuries. Then his voice darkened again. Trust is what the watchers will exploit, he warned. They hunt the moments when protection softens into vulnerability. The crystals around the chamber dimmed suddenly. A distant hum vibrated through the walls. His posture stiffened instantly. They found an entry point, he said. The air thickened as unseen pressure crushed down. Distorted silhouettes spread across the chamber's windows, forming tall, elongated shapes that shimmered unnaturally. Don't look into their eyes, he commanded. Too late. As my gaze brushed one of the forms, a flood of sorrow poured into my mind. I saw families the Watchers had used across centuries, stolen connections forced into servitude, people reduced into living gateways between realms. Their pain echoed like muffled screams trapped beneath water. I cried out and collapsed forward. He caught me instantly, pulling me close. Don't let them speak to you, he urged desperately. A voice slithered across my thoughts. You belong between worlds. The soul mark burned violently. I gasped against his chest as the chamber walls began to fracture, cracks glowing with deep violet fissures. He wrapped both arms around me, his calm cracking at last. Do not listen to them, he begged. You do not belong to their hunger. Well, they say I'm a bridge. You are not an object, he snapped fiercely. You are a choice. Light burst from the mark, and the chamber pulsed violently. The watchers recoiled from the windows but did not retreat completely. Instead, a single figure emerged through the fractured air into the room itself. Taller than the rest, robed in flowing shadow. Its voice vibrated physically in the chamber. Your bond destabilizes both realms, King, it intoned. Release the mortal or we will claim her. He rose slowly to full height, power radiating from him like quiet thunder. You will not claim what does not belong to you, he said. The watcher tilted its head, curious rather than threatened. You protected worlds, not relationships. Sentiment weakens rule. His jaw clenched. No, he replied steadily. Compassion strengthens it. The watcher extended one long shadowed hand toward me. Instinctively, I clutched the king's cloak. The chamber shook, and before he could react, invisible force ripped me from his arms. I screamed. He lunged but collided with a barrier of light. His fist struck the invisible wall uselessly. My body lifted into the air as tendrils of darkness bound around my wrists and legs. The watcher's voice lowered. The bridge awakens. The soul mark began blazing brighter than ever. Pain cracked across my nerves as energy surged uncontrollably. The king roared in anguish, the sound raw and unrestrained. Well, stop, he shouted. Take me instead. They laughed not aloud, but within the bones of the chamber. Well, you carry eternity, she carries access. Desperation twisted his features. I reached toward him as the darkness pulled me higher. Don't give up on me, I cried. His eyes burned bright, no longer guarded, no longer distant. I will never give up, he vowed. His body erupted in light darker than shadow and brighter than flame. The barrier shattered outward like exploding glass. He surged forward, cloak billowing behind him as he cut through the space between us. But the watcher twisted reality itself. The chamber tore apart. A space folded, and I vanished into swirling abyss before his outstretched hand could reach mine. The last thing I heard before the void swallowed everything was his voice, not commanding, not restrained, but broken and human. Hold on to me. Then there was only darkness, and the sound of my own heart racing toward an unknown fat other was no ground beneath me. No sky above. Only endless movement, as if I were falling sideways through liquid night. The darkness hummed with distant voices, not speaking words but vibrations of emotion, grief, hunger, obedience. The Watcher's realm was not a place but a living current that carried everything caught between worlds. The tendrils holding me finally faded, but the pull remained. The soul mark blazed like a silver flame on my wrist, the only light in the endless void. And then I felt him, not beside me, within me. His presence surged through the bond, steadying the chaos like an anchor thrown into depth. "I've found you," his voice echoed inside my mind, strained but determined. "Don't be afraid." "I'm not alone anymore," I whispered, though fear tremored in every breath. "Oh, never again," he replied. The current thickened, resisting his approach. His voice wavered with effort. "The Watchers have bound this realm with living barriers. I cannot cross completely without tearing open your soul mark." "Then don't come," I pleaded. "You'll lose yourself." "I already lost myself once," he answered quietly, "when I chose isolation instead of love." A glow expanded inside my chest. "I will not make that mistake again." The void shimmered outward. Suddenly, fragments of memory appeared around me like floating glass mirrors, moments not mine. The vampire king standing beside dying stars long before humans built cities. The young ruler accepting his crown with fear rather than ambition. The centuries of solitary guardianship, guiding humanity from shadows, choosing duty over happiness again and again. I saw the truth of him at last. He was not immortal because he sought power. He was immortal because he accepted sacrifice. My tears drifted like weightless stars. "You deserve joy," I murmured. "Not without you," he replied. The current screamed in protest as the Watchers manifested around me, dozens of towering shadow forms circling like judges. One stepped forward, voice thick with command. "Your bond is inefficient. Separation restores balance." A strange calm settled over me. "A balance does not mean emptiness," I said. The Watcher's silence pressed like a warning. You teach a king to choose vulnerability over order," it replied. "That endangers worlds." "No," I countered. "I teach him to protect with heart, not only power." Oh, the soul mark surged. Gold and silver light burst outward, radiating through the void. The Watchers recoiled, their silhouettes rippling. A distant cry broke through the current. His voice, "Do not fight alone." The bond pulled my spirit forward sharply, and suddenly I was no longer weightless. I stood again within a shifting dimensional space where the worlds overlapped in shattered layers. Above shimmered my human sky. Below churned the shadows of the Watcher's passageways. Reality itself flickered between forms. And at the boundary stood him. His cloak streamed behind him like torn night, eyes blazing with desperate resolve. Power bled from him uncontrolled for the first time. "When I cross fully," he warned, voice breaking, "I surrender my throne, my immortality. I become one of your world." But my heart seized. "You'd become immortal." "Oh, yes." "Oh, you could die," I said, tears spilling freely. He stepped closer to the threshold anyway. "Living without love is a slower death," he whispered. The Watchers hissed in dissonant tones. "Your abdication weakens all realms." He did not even look at them. "Only at me." "I was never meant to rule forever," he said softly. "I was meant to learn how to live." His hand extended toward me over the fractured boundary. The soul mark flared in shared resonance. But before I could reach him, a Watcher lunged between us, unleashing a torrent of shadow that struck him mid-step. He flew backward violently, crashing into the dimensional barrier. The pain tore across the bond like lightning. I screamed his name. He struggled to rise, bloodless but shaken, light fading from his eyes. The Watchers converged on him. This time, it was my turn to act. I lifted my marked wrist instinctively, no longer afraid of my own power. The compassion he had taught me became my strength. If I am a bridge, I shouted into the swirling void, then I will decide what crosses. The soul mark detonated with blinding brilliance. Light swept outward, shattering the Watcher's formation like brittle glass. Shadows evaporated under the surge. The realm trembled violently. I collapsed to my knees, energy draining rapidly. He barely regained his footing in time to reach me as everything dissolved. He caught me in his arms, holding me tightly as the dimensional planes destabilized. "Oh, you saved me," he said hoarsely. "Well, we saved each other," I replied weakly. But triumph was short-lived. His form began flickering. His immortality was draining faster than expected. Fear filled his eyes. "The crossing weakened me," he said. "If I stay between realms too long, the bond will burn us both away." We clung together as space warped wildly around us. "What do we do?" I whispered. His gaze hardened with sudden determination. "We choose," he answered, "either separate and restore the old order, or face the unknown together." The void surged once more, pressing inward from every direction. Time was slipping away. Our decision could no longer wait. The void pressed closer, thick with unraveling light and shadow. I felt the bond burning between us, too powerful for the space holding it. My chest ached as if my heart were trying to beat in two directions at once. The king held me close, his forehead touching mine as if he feared even an inch of distance might steal me away again. "If we separate, you live safely," he whispered. "The realms will seal, the watchers will retreat." "And you?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. "I return to the throne," he said finally, "to my endless duty, alone." The word alone landed heavier than any sentence before it. I shook my head. That kind of safety isn't living. His eyes faltered. "Yours would be," he insisted. "I would endure the rest." My hands tightened in his cloak. "You've endured enough," I said softly. "You taught me that protection without love creates emptiness, not peace." The void roared louder around us. He drew a slow breath, trembling. "If I cross fully to you," he said, "the throne dissolves. The old hierarchy collapses. There will be no immortal king to restrain the darkness." "You don't restrain darkness," I replied gently. "You transform it." He stared as the truth of my words settled in. "Your world doesn't need a lonely ruler," I continued. "It needs guardians who remember empathy." For the first time, I saw certainty eclipse his fear. "And your world needs hope," I answered, "not mythology." He smiled faintly. "Hope always terrified me more than responsibility," he confessed. The soul mark glowed hotter than ever, linking our pulses into one steady rhythm. The watchers reformed from the swirling shadow, though weaker now, less certain. Their voice echoed in tight resonance. "Choose separation and restore order, or choose unity and fracture stability." The king straightened. "Your stability demanded centuries of my suffering," he said calmly. "I no longer accept that price." He turned to me one final time. "If we do this, my power fades. I lose immortality. I will become as fragile as you." I brushed my thumb across his cheek. "Fragility is not weakness," I whispered. "It's how we learn to cherish time." For a moment, the entire cosmos seemed to pause. Then he stepped forward across the boundary. Light surged between us as the soul mark shattered into countless glowing embers that wrapped around both our bodies. The dimensional barrier collapsed inward, sucking shadow and illusion into stillness. The watchers screamed without sound as their tether to control dissolved. We fell, not into darkness, But into dawn, I awoke lying in soft grass under a pale golden sky. Birds sang nearby. The air smelled alive with earth and wildflowers. No storm, no void, only a quiet field at sunrise. Oh, he lay beside me, not glowing, not distant, not crowned, just a man. His chest rose and fell with uncertain breath, as if every inhale were an awe-inspiring miracle. I knelt beside him, heart pounding. "Are you here?" I asked softly. His eyes fluttered open slowly, and this time they carried neither ancient sorrow nor supernatural light, only warm humanity. "I feel finite," he murmured, wonder filling his voice, "and alive." Tears spilled down my face. "Oh, you did it." He smiled, small but real. "Oh, we did." The soul mark was gone. No silver glow. No burning pulse. Only smooth skin where it had once shined. We sat together as the sun climbed higher, soaking everything in gentle warmth. For the first time, he did not watch the horizon like a sentinel bound to eternity. He watched me. "I spent centuries saving strangers," he said quietly, "never knowing how to let someone save me." I rested my head on his shoulder. "Love doesn't replace strength," I replied. "It teaches strength where duty alone cannot reach." We remained there until the sky fully brightened. And somewhere far beyond perception, I sensed the watchers fading, their realm collapsing into harmless distance, no longer fueled by fear or enforced imbalance. Without an immortal king to anchor tyranny or solitude, shadows returned to what they were meant to be, harmless reflections of light. In the days that followed, he learned what living truly meant. To eat simple meals in small cafes where no one knew his past. To help people openly instead of invisibly. To laugh quietly at ordinary moments. To sleep without guarding the world. Sometimes he would wake suddenly from dreams of his former throne. I would take his hand and remind him, "Your rule didn't end, it transformed." He would squeeze my fingers and say, "The greatest kingdom I ever found was the one where I was finally not alone." And I understood then the deeper truth behind the dreams that had once brought him to me. He was never destined to rule beside me as a king of shadows. He was destined to walk beside me as a man of compassion. Together, not as legend and dreamer, but as two souls choosing love over fear. Not to rule eternity, but to live fully within time.